Tuesday, August the 6th. I had to do this recording before the class tomorrow that was scheduled, so my apologies again for keeping this timeline a little back and forth with my scheduling. I did have plan a vacation this week, and this is why my a lot of things kind of offsetted themselves. So I do apologize. So let's go with this recording for now, and hopefully we can wrap up some of these advanced settings that I wanted to show you going forward. Now, it's not really necessary that you apply these advanced, components to your project that's due next week. However, it should help you with a lot of your future projects going forward. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to share my camera soon. And before I wrap up the lesson, I'm going to just remind all of you that you're going to present your group assignments for next week. Wednesday, it'll be the same starting time. We'll start at 6:15 next Wednesday. So I'm going to see you all there, and you're going to present your projects. If you cannot make it, you will have to present it virtually. So we'll give you the opportunity to do so the same way we're conducting these lessons online. All right, so let's go ahead and start. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go over the agenda for today. As I mentioned before, this is something that I did want to cover before we wrap up the semester. I know there's a lot to learn with these programs. However, as long as you invest the time and the resources, the challenge is always there, just like any other application. So just keep up the hard efforts and the good work you've been doing so far. Let's have a look at some of the example files that I saved here on my desktop. You can find them also with a Blackboard. Okay, so if you go to the course link and you go right down to the last module, which is usability testing. Okay, this is the last unit. I should just call it final unit. Let me just quickly give it a rename here. Don't like that name. All right. So testing basically means you're testing all your projects and your prototypes effectively with your peers and with your clients and with your team in order to get proper results. All right. So this is some of the lingo that I use for my instant thumbnail here. I'm going to save that. In there, you're going to find class 13 and 14. And now we did cover class 13 last week. I just kind of moved it over here under interaction design principles. So just to organize it a little better, I conducted everything in here. I made another folder. I called it class 13 and 14. So this covers all the advanced topics that you might want to include in your future projects. Now, last week we did finish with the Olympics app. We did it right from scratch. So if you didn't catch that video, make sure you watch it with our YouTube channel, of course. You can click here and all the videos should be up to date. So that was last week class, week number 13. So today would be like week number 14 and the final class, because next week is our presentation week, and we're going to wrap it up there. Okay, so again, under usability and testing, I do have some files for you to go over. And I'm not going to cover all of these. These are extra resources for you to look at, but I will cover some of the important ones. So Figma to HTML. A lot of people are asking me, how do you convert Figma to a website? This is a few links that I've found that some of the designers have used in the past. You can try them yourself. Some of them are like a membership type of, thing where you have to join and then you become a member with these guys, and they give you all kinds of different types of plugins to convert your Figma into HTML. Okay, so I think they came a long way from this. They were first starting out as a beta version. It's called animaapp.com/Figma. Okay, so we can try that one. This is by popular demand. Some people ask me if this is possible or not. The other one is PX Code to HTML. That's another famous one that I encountered. to clean code 20 times faster with AI. So those are additional resources for you. All right. So I'm not going to cover that because that's a whole new different subject when it comes to HTML. But since you're already learning that in the other class and you're doing prototyping with me in this class, you might be able to amalgamate the two. And when you have some free time, by all means, feel free to explore those options for you. Now I'm going to show you the more advanced stuff today. So the first one is called components buttons.fig. The other one is called auto layout.fig, as we covered that before, but I wanted to just kind of reiterate it a little more, review it so you can understand it better. A portfolio complete example. This was a lesson that we did last semester, and the students were required to do a portfolio prototype in this class as well. Now, we did find it too redundant and repetitive by doing too many portfolios in all the other classes. This is why we switched it up a little bit, and you're doing your group assignment instead. All right. Then there's the portfolio desktop and mobile, another example of such a similar scenario, but this one has a mobile version as well. It's a good way to compare the two. Plugins at a glance. This is an XD file. I did not want to forget about the previous software. So in case some of you that love XD and you want to still use that as a prototyping tool, you can until they discontinue it completely. Just because Adobe support stops, supporting their app doesn't really mean the app is really obsolete. I mean, even Flash and some other programs, it took a lot of years for them to become totally gone off the charts. So if it's still there, you can still use XD. However, as I mentioned in the past, we are leaning more towards Figma because that seems to be the future. This is another example of a XD. These are XD files. If you want to go browse to them, go ahead. But honestly, I'd rather more focus on the Figma files, and this is what I'm going to cover today with you. All right, so components buttons.fig. So what are component buttons? Is a very, very unique way for you to configure different button variables and components in one simple action. So if I open up this Fig file that I prepared for you, and open it up in the drafts folder here. So this is the file right here. I kept it very simple and visual for you to understand. So this is where you can get a little more advanced with the way you can configure your component buttons. All right. So what this is you set up different variations of the button. I did leave a link from last week's lesson to look at this more in depth. How could this be useful is if you have a lot of different instances of the same button. Let's say you have a UI kit that consists of, I don't know, maybe 60 different buttons. You can do a lot of shortcuts by trimming out different variables and components within themselves. It took a while for me to get used to this method, but once I grasped it, I think it worked really well. And to explain it's a little more harder unless I really show it to you in different variations. I'm going to attempt that by doing that right now. As you can see, I made a section over here. The section consists of some icons that I converted into multiple variables, okay? Or multiple components, I should say. So these are all different components. This is a component called button with a hover state. And this is just another example of the same button, all right? And how this all plays a nice key role is that as you look at the frame here, whether it's like an app or a design, and if I was to go ahead and edit these buttons, you can do so a lot more quickly and swiftly by doing things like, like this button, for example. I can show the text or hide the text, right? I can show the icon or hide the icon just by doing this here, right? Show the icon, hide the icon. Same thing here. This one is showing the icon, but it's hiding the text, all right? This one here is that you change this to say something else. So you can just say another button or a button two, right? And if the button is too small, you can always increase the size because it does have auto layout enabled, which means the buttons are totally resizable. And the last thing is you can totally change the checkbox of this button as well by simply clicking here and changing a different icon to replace this location. So this is how pretty much flexible this could be. Sometimes the setup might not be worth it. So if you think this is like a big waste of time, I wouldn't do this for 4 buttons. I would do this for like a lot of different buttons. Like let's say you have like 20 different buttons of the same kind. You will find this then useful. Okay. Up until then, I wouldn't really worry too much about it. Now, showing you how this works is one thing, but maybe building it from scratch might be another. So why don't I try that approach right now and show you how I did all this, okay? So first things first, these are all icons that I made, and I converted these into components, okay? And the second thing was by making this button here, I made all these components exist with the different parent components, like icons and text and things like that. So I'll just do one simple example. And again, there's a tutorial you can watch that's more in depth. And sometimes it's good to watch 3 different tutorials just to kind of learn this stuff if you find this stuff useful. So please do that. What I'm going to do in the meantime is create a new document right from scratch and take it from there. All right. So this way, in case you're following me, you can do it along as you watch me do this. So let's first create our icons. I'm going to create a rectangle here, maybe perhaps a triangle, just different shapes. I can also grab these icons from Illustrator, like a vector file icon, or I can go use that. Remember the plugins we used last week? Okay, there's like a plugin thing here, and I can use this icon um, app and maybe use some of these things if I want. Okay, just by simply, oh, it's ask me to upgrade and pay money. So you can actually get the free ones or use the free, I mean, another plugin that's free. That's not going to cost you money at all. I'm going to create another one over here just to create random symbols. Here's the star. I'm going to make sure all the heights are evenly established. Okay, you can also create the guides for that, like this. I'm going to line them all up. You could integrate the vertical and the horizontal baseline. Let's make this a little bigger so it stands out. All right, so this is that there. I'm gonna go ahead and change the color of the star. I'll change this one as well. So all these 3 items here, I'm going to convert them into multiple. I mean, I can make like 10, 12 icons if I wish. I think 3 is enough. If you click over here, I want to create a multiple component set. Notice how, because there's many of them, like 3 in this case, it's a multiple component. So for that reason, I'm going to create a multiple component set. Okay. Because I did that now, they'll be easily recognizable into that advanced tab menu that I was showing you earlier. So that means if I create a button, right, at this point, let's create another separate rectangle here, put some text, switch to the scale tool and make it a bit bigger. Go back to the move tool and change the color. Make this so notice I have this button inside this square. So if you go to layers, you can see how this is all kind of all set up like that. I'm also going to create one more item over here, like an icon of some sort. Perhaps I'll use a circle, like a checkbox button of some type. And this button's going to be this way. All right. I'm ready now to convert this into an actual button and then show you how I can replace these different instances with some of the icons that I have pre made over here on the top row. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe make this a tab bigger. It's important that these matches, this circle here matches the size of the other ones, as we're going to be replacing them with it. So perhaps making it a little smaller and making more space here on this button will do the trick. Another important thing to mention is to convert this into an auto layout. Now I do have an auto layout example that I listed here. And what auto layout will do is, in case you want to swap something or take away something, it'll definitely make the adjustments necessary for that to happen properly. So I'm going to select everything that I have here. As you can see on the layers panel, I have the ellipse, the button, and the rectangle too. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this auto layout tab on the right side here. This little plus button will convert this into an auto layout function. Okay, now this is new. It came out, I believe, this year or last year in XD. Figma, I should say, not XD. The XD doesn't have this feature. It's available only in Figma. I'm going to go ahead and click on this middle layout option here, which means this will be perfectly centered. That means whatever's inside this configuration, it's going to center it to this exact parameter. You can see like how that works. If it's to the bottom, it's going to set up to the bottom. If it's to the top, it's also stretched out to the right. Right? You can also make it go wrap. Wrap means it'll basically make it go to the next bottom available space. I like to keep it on this one here, just to horizontal layout, because it is a horizontal layout setting here. If it's, exceeds or contracts the selection, it'll still work no matter what. So that's the thing I wanted to do, right? All right, so we have an auto layout converted in from this frame. We have these multiple components that are made. Now let's go ahead and convert this frame one, or the button that we made, into a component as well. So that's going to happen up here by creating this into a component. This now will be treated as such. All right. Now what that means is I'm going to have to go inside this component now, right? And let's just rename this and call it button. Right? This is called a rectangle, it's called a polygon, and a star. So they're named based on the shapes that I created earlier. On the assets, you should see all the generated assets. Everything that you see here is converted into the local component assets that I have. All right. So now if we go inside this button, I'm going to show you after when I create another screen here or another artboard, and you will see how this will all come into play. So this is the setting up process of getting your UI kit to work the way you want it to behave when you have a lot of different variations. So this button here, for example, now, what we want to assign is different properties. So because this little circle exists inside the button, I'm going to select it here. All right, we're going to go ahead and make it a parent button. So this will select the component, which we already selected it here. And this will be a layer. The layer means you can make it visible or invisible. So show ellipse one, true or false. So we're going to make it true, and that'll create the property for that to be easily accessible and modifiable. All right. All right. And what we can do with the text option, for example, is we can have it make it more dynamic by going down here where it says button. We're going to click on this little option here by creating a text property, and we can just name it what we can call it text, or just button, or text or button. Okay, just to kind of keep it more consistent. And we're going to create a property for that as well. Notice how these little purple pills, they call them, keep selecting to show you that you're creating properties for these exact instances and values. Okay. Now let's do, maybe we'll do another one over here. Over here for a second. I'm going to create an instance swap property as well. Because so far what I showed you was the text and the Boolean property. The variant is the ones we already created. So the only one is what I didn't show you is the swap. So I do that all by clicking here and by applying the properties tab on the right. This is how you create additional properties. So we have the text, the show and hide, which is called a Boolean property. And the next one will be the instance swap. So if I do that one, for example, you can then pick the type of instance you want to select and swap it to this one. So you can select the rectangle, the star, the button, whichever one you want to create. I'm going to go with the, I guess I'll go with the polygon for now, right? I'm going to call it instance swap. I'll put the word swap so you can kind of identify it easier. We're going to hit create property, and that's going to create all these three different properties that are going to exist. Like I said, watch another video on this if you want. It's good to show, to watch different examples of this. I watched a few myself, and I want to keep this as simple as possible so you can utilize these techniques if you find them useful. All right. Now let's see how this all plays out. So I'm going to create a frame in this area here. Okay. And I'm going to insert my button as, let's say this is my UI kit or my interface that I'm creating for a website or an actual app. So simply drag the instance of the button over here. All right. Now this button is visible and you can see all the different properties that are applied to it. For example, show ellipse on or off. So you can control, let's say you have multiple buttons and you can have two, for example, you can have this one with on, this one with off or on. You can show or hide different properties that we configured from the get-go. This does help a lot if you do a lot of different variations of the button continually through your layout. You can control these kind of things. Okay. You can also control the different things like this. You can do a polygon, you can control the rectangle, and you can control the star. Now, I think this should have actually, I think I selected the whole thing instead of this thing here. But yeah, I think I did it that way. Oopsies. All right, so what I did was I converted the whole thing to change instead of this one. So make sure when you double click only on the circle to become the instance, and this then becomes the actual property. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and next add one here, button. Let's add another property. I already made one there. All right, anyways, yeah, I guess if I make this into an instance, it'll work then. So I should have maybe used one of these and then do it that way. Either way, what you can do is swap this little circle here with the instance that's there. In this case, just to demonstrate how that would have worked was to select this one here and switch it to one of these instances. But it would have been this one, okay, instead of that one. I just didn't quite, unless you do it this way here, right? All right, next one. Let's go ahead and show you how the text works. The text is easy. You just have to rename the layer. And it should work. Just make sure my auto layout is set up here. Right. There we go. So make sure the button's long enough to fit all this, because the auto layout has to be configured. In this case, I made it go from the center, and I did extend the wrap option. Okay, you can also do down, right, or wrap. I like the wrap because then it's keeping everything within the area. All right. So again, if you find this stuff useful, to help you in the future projects, by all means, this is all new stuff. Okay, so even for me, it was new when I first did it, and you can still see I do mix it up sometimes by swapping certain instances and variables. So practice this, okay? See if it can help you, and make it work. All right, and again, you don't have to utilize it for the project that's due next week, your group assignment. But I did want to not show you this in the future in case you do want to take advantage of the more advanced capabilities of the software. All right. Okay, so I'm going to close this one down here, and you do have a good example of this one if you want to play around with it. It should have worked like this actually, so you can like double click on this little house here. I did it fine this way. Just replace the icon. All right, so that's the way it should have kind of worked. I do have a good example that I did post here. So if you go to last week's lesson and you click on or was it under resources? Figma Advanced Tutorials. Okay, I think it's this one over here. So watch this tutorial. It's really, really good and explains everything that I just went over and I guess in a more shorter depth and detail, and it's pretty good.
Variance video, we ship description to learn interactive component. Down menu will we have a toggle component set with 2 variants.
All right, so watch that video. If my explanation wasn't quite clear or you maybe didn't get it, watch that one and you can definitely find this stuff useful. All right, let's move on to the next one now. The next one's called auto layout. I know I discussed this already with you with other examples, but in this particular case, you have a better, more broader example of how this file may look like. These are just different buttons that I made. It says hug, hug here, which means this was, let's go back to the layout here. So this is a frame that I made into an auto layout. So it's just basically a rectangle with text. Once you convert it to auto, he'll do it again. So right now, this is just a frame or a rectangle with text in it. You can select both items that you did and you create an auto layout. And here's where you can have both hugging. Hugging means the height and the length. Okay, so it's always going to hug the actual contents inside. This other example is set to also hug and hug. So there's 2 examples of that one. This is set to fixed and fixed, okay? Which means this is always going to be the same amount of width or height that you select. It's going to fix from the bottom to the top, okay? So make sure that's another example of how this auto layout works. So these are all different configurations of individual pieces, right? The more expanded ones are this one over here, like frame 21. Here you have multiple varieties of auto layout configurations. Here I put the hug content, and you can see when you click on the whole thing, it's set to fixed and fixed. But if you click on this individual one, it's set to continue horizontal layout left, and it's centered in the middle. This one is set to fixed width, but fill the height container. So if I change it to, let's say, hug, it's going to do that. If I change it to fill, it's going to go fill right to the top. That means whatever I do to the master frame, it'll adhere to the other ones to do the same thing. They're going to fill their parameters as well. This one's also set to fill and fill, while this one's set to fixed and fill. Okay, so you see how this works quite nicely. All right. So again, just mess around with this stuff. It's called auto layouts. You can try different things, different variations, and different variables. by playing around with all the tabs over here on the right-hand side. Now, lastly, you have frame 14. This is also set to auto layouts, and it's set to wrap, which means if I do resize this, all the boxes will wrap within the auto layouts. All right. Again, a new feature that was released for Figma in some of the I think it was the beginning of this year or the end of last year that they released this very powerful feature called auto layout. Lots of tutorials, lots of examples for this one as well. So if you're seeking for some other additional explanation, feel free to look online. I guess I could post some links, but honestly, there's some lot of good YouTube tutorials for this. So feel free to find some as well if you want. All right. And again, I covered this in the previous lessons, so I did just wanted to make sure I went over it again so you don't forget about it. Okay. So auto layouts, good for buttons, good for everything that you want to set your design details for. All right. So I'm going to close this one down as well. And the next one here is portfolio complete example and portfolio desktop and mobile. Let's do the complete example here. Now, you're not doing a portfolio, but if you're doing like a website or anything of that particular sort, you can still use this as a great example. I think this might be the same file. Yeah, this is the more simpler version. So I'll just go ahead and use this one here. The other one is called Portfolio Desktop and Mobile. I'll also open that in the drafts folder or location. Yeah, these are honestly, these are like very similar. So maybe just I'll to lessen the confusion, I'm gonna open this one here and delete that one. Okay, so portfolio, desktop, and mobile. All right, so let's go with this one here. I like this example better, and I'll clear the other one so you don't get too confused. Close this module here. So it's this one here, portfolio, desktop, and mobile. Okay, so everything that I'm showing you so far is accessible here. You can find it. But this is a very good one because this will help you with the current project that you're working on. If you have to do some type of a mobile menu that's kind of integrated with your project. Just to quickly recap from what we did last week, the difference was we did the Olympic app from last week. So if I was to open that one, you can see here. All right, all over the place here. All right. So last week was the Paris Olympics. We did it right from scratch. It's throwing me off. We did a rough version of it as well. There it is. This one here. So if you haven't watched last week's video in class, we did this. We did a very basic prototype of an app. We did 2 pages. One was wireframe, one was fully rendered. We did choose the Olympics as a default theme because that's what's happening right now. It's trending and it's pretty popular all over the world. So if you click on the intro screen here, we press the preview button. You can see how this was done. This is also, I think, uploaded on last week's lesson. We have an enter button with a rollover. We scroll down. We can go like and unlike, just a simple toggle component. We can go back to the main screen. Once we enter, we can then choose different, navigational points. So we go over here. We did the frame scrolling, like a little iframe scrolling area within this window here. We also did another option where it scrolls left and right. Okay. And then we also did one where it goes to scrolling horizontally or vertically. Okay. And we went through all these different configurations. We also went as far as clicking here and opening an image in the background. Okay. So you can do all that stuff all inside this example. And a lot of apps have these very similar simple features which you can implement in the app that you're working on now. So that should have kind of covered 90% of the work that you needed to do. And the rest of the stuff, if you wanted to do something different in terms of a drop-down menu, I'm going to show you that right now. So I'm going to put this one away and open up this example to show you how this will be orchestrated. So here we have a very, very simple example of a mobile version with like 4 pages. It's a portfolio example, but could be anything. This is the actual hamburger menu. Okay, so I put it here as an actual component. So it becomes an asset. It's a local component. Okay, and this is how the drop-down menu is configured. Now I'm going to do this from scratch, so I can easily show you how um, simple it is to create from the ground up. But just to show you how it's implemented and how it's used, I'm going to demonstrate it with these mobile actions here. Because not always you're going to create an app that looks similar to the one that the Olympics. Although I see more and more apps now use less of this, more of the menus that are inserted within the design. This just makes it more user friendly, I think, in my opinion. However, when you do make responsive websites, like if this was like an actual website and you convert this into a mobile version, then it'll convert to this, right? Just like you would if I go to a website here to show you an example of, I know you know what I'm talking about, but just in case, go to my Canadian products website. Oh yeah, I guess I have to put the .ca. Right. So this is one of my platforms that I created, and of course I kept in mind to create a mobile version of it. So if I do scale it, this way, it looks like a tablet view. Actually, this is tablet view. You can see the hamburger menu shows up this way. If you make it mobile version view, then it goes this way, right? So it's a different configuration. For that reason, you should have to create a different type of prototype for mobile or desktop. Now, I would have also converted different pages. One page could have been mobile, one page could have been desktop, just like we did last week. But I kept this all together in one page just to demonstrate the difference. Now, just to preview how this works, I'm going to press the play button. And you can see here how you can scroll, up and down, whatever, how much content you have. This is how the menu opens and closes within the actual app. So you have a little X, or you can just click away to close it, whichever way you want. I put the X in here so it's a little more distinguishable. If you click on some of the links, you go to those pages. And if you click on the X again, you close the menu. Now, one thing I noticed here was the consistency of when you click on a menu to have this disappear on its own. Okay. So maybe I'm going to add to this and show you how to create from scratch. And the difference was for me to do that, what I had to do was when I created these links under prototype, make sure you reset component state. If that's on, then this link, for example, let's do all of them so you can see the difference here. So if you reset all of them to do that, it should disappear basically. Okay, so you won't have that menu work. Okay, so I press play now. Let's go into the other one. Right, the menu closes. Instead of me closing it, when I click on the link, it closes by itself. And that's what you want. Well, this has a horizontal scrolling section. You can always close it yourself and vice versa. All right. Here we have a desktop website. So if I press play here, it does the auto scroll. Now you're not doing a portfolio website, so don't worry about this. But this opens different images. But you clicking on this opens up all these different images from different positions. And finally, you have the contact page. So this was all possible because I have these images floating around here. Okay. And these images are converted into frames. So basically, as long as you have a layout created like the one I have here, all you have to really do is connect this thumbnail under prototype. You connect it to the image you want it to open. In this case, I connected this one to this one to that one, this one to this one. And when I did connect it, I did present um, the interaction to be a click interaction. And the trick here was open overlay. Open overlay allows you to overlay images that are outside of the perimeter of the frame, which in this case was the website, because these don't have an actual, well, they have their own frames, but they're not really on here. They're away from here. So this frame, let's go back to this one for a second. On click, open overlay. So this was the main, um, difference here with interaction of opening overlay images on websites, as opposed to like clicking and navigating. You're overlaying an image in that location. So another thing is you control is you can do move in, move out, right? You can control the different uh, directions it moves in. The timing, of course. The positioning would be, in this case, centered. You can do top left, top center, top right, different configurations there. You can even add a background. In this case, I did a 50% black background. So it's like a dimmed type of dimmed faded version. Okay. So I did that to all of these. And some of them I did, left, some of them I did right. I played with different configurations. This one went down. Okay. And close when clicked outside. So when I clicked outside of this thumbnail, it closes these images. So that's how easy it is to do this. Now, this is for you to have so you can explore with it. So if I do press play, just to kind of show you again how it works, like that, click away, click over here, click away. Notice how it dims it to 50% black in the background, right? So it's quite easy to do. All you have to do is set it up and link these as a open overlay function, okay? So click open overlay, and then you select the image, or you drag it to the image, and things like that. Now, another thing you might be wondering is how did I click on this and scroll down? Well, for that one, we did a click a click interaction, and we set it to scroll to. Scroll to means scroll to rectangle 12. Rectangle 12 is what we established this area to be. So I simply drew a rectangle, called it rectangle 12 in the background here, and that's how I went to that specific rectangle. And yes, we went to animate, so it animated the effect. So basically this button, and it clicked on, scroll to this section, which is called portfolio. And then furthermore, when we click on these thumbnails, they did open overlay to open these images the way you see them. Again, you're not doing a portfolio website, but I did not want to shy away from not showing you how to do one, just in case in the future you might want to do a portfolio website or any website in Figma and using these advanced features. Okay. So if I press play again, let's quickly recap what I just went over. So if I click on bio, it's going to go to scroll. See, this click, scroll to. If I click on the thumbnails, it just brings the images, which is called click open overlay. And you can control the direction. All right. Very easy to do, very fun. And it looks pretty cool, I think, in terms of creating a one-page layout for a website. Now back to the mobile app. Okay, I do want to show you this drop-down menu in better or greater detail. So why don't I just make one from scratch and then link that to the actual pages that you see. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this whole thing. Maybe I'll keep it for reference because I do might want to forget how it's just one little error and then you have to do it all over again. So I'll keep it there for now and I'll delete it after, okay? Just for reference purposes. So let's go ahead and replace this little hamburger button with our own version. So this way I can show you from scratch. Sometimes it's better to do that just because it's so tedious and technical, I think. So first, let's create the little hamburger lookalike. I'm going to use a rectangle tool for that. All right, we'll change the color. Go to design, of course. We'll change the color up a bit. Right. We'll round the edges. We're going to create the little lines going across to indicate the little hamburger icons. Maybe I'll do little things like that. Option drag, right? Now you could group these. I can hit Command G, right, which is group. And then this could be centered with that. You can see it has the auto centering option. You can also do auto layout and align it that way. I can also go align it this way, middle, say go top or middle, left from the menus up here. Of course, you have to select both of them because now this is a group and this is a group, just like you would group things in Illustrator. Figma is no different, right? Once this is all grouped, right, we're going to select the whole thing again. We're going to make this a component right now. Okay, so this will be this little hamburger button we made. We're going to go ahead up here and create a component, right? Once we convert this into a component, it's going to look like that. All right, I'm going to call it component one, or I can rename it, call it hamburger menu. All right. Now with that being selected, we're going to go ahead and click over here and create a variant. A variant will create another variant of that component, like a variation if you want to call it. All right. So just like that, I made a duplicate of it. All right. I'm going to make this a little bigger. And this duplicate, I'm going to delete it and create another variation, or I can just leave it alone and edit this one if you want. It's going to make it look like an actual menu, like a drop-down menu. So I'm going to make it bigger. I'm going to delete these things in it and create like maybe wording, like words, so look like menu items that I'm going to list here. So for that, I'm going to use, just click on this box here. So if I put something in with the text tool, it will insert it in the same location. Not necessarily make this a text box, but make it look like it's within the box itself. So this will be home. what I have here? Home. Bio. Gives me the same approximate distance vertically. Portfolio. I'm going to mix up the casing just to make it a little more cleaner. And about. Right. Of course, I'll make it some more, give it some more space here. Oh, it does have the auto layout configured, so I will double click. This down a bit. Configure it that way. If you double click, you can edit this rectangle a little better, which is what I did right there. And now you can have a total redesign of this example. All right. So this is variant 1, this is variant 2, this is variant 2, and this is default variant. So default variant, and this is variant 2. Again, if you do either or, you can have this thing work. Maybe I can just put a little X, just like I did there, just to close the menu. There's always a little X button somewhere to do that. I'm going to go ahead and use the line tool and just select this first to make sure it's select in there. It's always a good idea to make a selection. Make sure that makes this here. Okay, good. Because if you select it and then you draw something, it's going to put it within the actual object. Just make it a little thicker. 3 pixels. Make another copy. Right. I'm going to group this together, and this will act like a separate little item by itself. Okay, this is going to be all in here, right in the corner. So if you click on this, the menu will close. If you click on the buttons, it'll navigate to all these different sections. And if you click on the hamburger menu initially, it'll open up this little menu drop-down button. Okay. All right. So I think we're all set up here. Just because we have this perimeter set up. It's important to keep this together here to make it nice and easy. Go. All right, so now let's go ahead and connect all the dots, basically. So this here, this component, okay, we have the default component. You can see default here. This is the variant 2 component. Make sure it's all together. By doing this, you can kind of tell if you put everything in the right place. You can easily misplace something by accident. I've done this many times. If you're not careful, if you don't select the right object or the right selection with the right grouping. Okay, so make sure you double check, triple check. Same with this one. Okay, so everything is nicely grouped here like that. All right. Now, once you do the design and you set up your variants and your components, you're ready to go ahead to the next step. So let's go ahead and connect this to this. That means when people click on this, this menu should drop down. And for that to happen, we got to go to prototype and simply connect this to that just by drawing an arrow, one to the other. Unclick, change to, a property 1, which is variant 2, which is what we made. It'll be instant. Okay. We can also do smart animate. We'll do instant for now. And that's it. We just basically click and make it look like this. Now, if you click on the little X, though, it'll reset back to this one. So if that's the case, then the X will be connected to that. And then it'll be on click, change to property 1, default, not variant 2, which is this, but the default, which is that. Okay, so this will switch to that. This will switch to this. Nice and easy. Let's test it before we go forward because I do want to make sure it works, right? So I'm going to go ahead and delete these because we don't need this here. Let's even delete this. Okay, so it's all cleared. This is going to be a new hamburger menu that we're going to use. I'm going to save a copy of this file just in case something goes wrong. I can always go back to the old one. I'll do it save as.fig. And I'll call it portfolio desktop and mobile redo. Okay, redo means I redid it just for explanation purposes. I'm going to go ahead and save that one. Which means now if I go to assets, I can grab this little hamburger icon. So don't forget, this is the resource. You don't want to touch that. You leave it alone. So if I delete this, it deletes it from here too. So you keep this here. Sometimes I use, remember, I use sections from last week to organize things a little better. So you can use sections or just have them floating on the outside works as well. So you drag these in, you do this exactly. You drag them to where you want it to go, back to layers. So this will go inside. Oops. Make sure in design view and position this exactly in the same place. So this will go inside my home mobile screen. How do I know? I can hide it and show it and make sure it's all there. Now, because this is a copy of the same asset of this one, I can go ahead and comfortably go copy, paste, click on this artboard, paste, well, bring it to the front. I just done a weird shortcut here. Let me just undo that. So click on the artboard again, click here, paste. Sometimes you have to click on the foreground object to paste it in the front. Otherwise, it might accidentally paste it in the back. So select the artboard, select the item that you want to paste it on top of, and just hit Command V. And that works really fine because all these now are identical. So this is the home screen. This is the bio. This is the portfolio. This could be any app that you're making with any theme. So go ahead and configure it. And that's it. Let's test it. So this is the opens and closes, opens and closes. That's exactly how we want it to behave. And of course, you can have this scrolling and doing all kinds of other things. But the main thing is we open this and we close it, as you see on the hamburger menus. All right. And you can kind of tuck them nicely. You can move this down if you think it's interfering. But sometimes it's purposely done that way. So you can no option but to select the menu chosen. Now, the only thing we have to do is connect these to the appropriate pages. So to do that, we simply move this over here so we can kind of get a good glimpse of everything at once. We double click to select the text item that's associated with our target selection. We go to prototype and we go to home. Home will go home. Okay. On click, navigate to home mobile. The arrow right away defines all this. Will be instant, yes. And the only thing is I want to point out is reset component state. That means the hamburger menu will close by itself without you pressing the X button. Let's do the same with the bio button. Connect that over here. On click, navigate to bio, instant, resets component state, mobile menu, sorry, portfolio section, go to portfolio, okay? And about, we'll go to about. And again, make sure you have reset component state enabled, so it'll do just that. Let's test it out. Oh, it goes back to the website. All right, we're going back to the mobile app. You have to click on the artboard to play it. Otherwise, by default, it's playing the other one. So here's the little hamburger menu. We click on bio. It goes to the bio section, and the hamburger menu closed by itself. Open it up again. Let's go to portfolio. I made this a scrollable little box here. Click again. Let's go to about or contacts. I think I messed up the buttons, but you get it, right? And this is how you can basically create a little hamburger menu within your app and having it pretty cool, situated, and you can execute it in ways that it behaves like a normal hamburger menu. All right. So you can either do the website and you can do a mobile version or vice versa. Now, for this group project, I'm looking for the mobile app. So don't worry about the desktop website. That's something that we did before with the other examples. And you did the UI kit for the desktop with the previous assignment. But for the big project, this is the one you got to worry about. Okay. The group app. Um, so I think this was pretty much the only thing left over that I wanted to go over. Some of the more advanced interactive or testing capabilities of Figma. So apart from this, like auto layouts, component states, variants, hamburger menus, scrolling, image overlays, these are all important things you want to know how to do with the software. All right. So again, I hope you found this lesson helpful. I do apologize again for not being there tomorrow with our uh, booked time that we had, but at least I wanted to, we didn't miss the class. I wanted to pre-record this and share it with you so we can definitely keep track of everything and you're on point with everything that we have. So again, if this stuff will help you for the upcoming project, your group project, that's fine. If it doesn't, you don't have to worry about it. Just do exactly what I showed you from the previous lessons from last week and onwards. And I will see you the following week, okay? Which is what's tomorrow? Well, 7th. It'll be August the 14th, okay? It'll be Wednesday, August the 14th, same time, same place. You're going to present a group project, so come with your partners. If you guys can't make it, then I do expect you to do it remotely. Okay, you will have 5 to 10 minutes to do your presentations. It'll be nice and quick. You can even take 15 minutes if necessary. And then we're going to get everybody to go ahead and do that. All right. The rubric is as I'm going to mark it equally based on your group members. Okay, unless there's an individual effort, I do want you to point out some things. Another thing is, I don't know if the rubric breakdown will be the presentation will count towards the criteria. So that's your criteria mark for your presentation. So if you miss the presentations, you will not get the criteria mark to its full amount. Okay, so that's how it's gonna affect your overall grade. So make sure you show up, you present your group project, and I'll see you guys then. All right, so have a good one and have the rest of the week. Sorry I can't make it for your portfolio night. Like I'm leaving tomorrow. I just couldn't push the day. I had to leave a little earlier. This is why I couldn't do the lesson live. All right. So like I said, I'll see you next week. And good luck on your portfolio night. And I'm sure you do well. And we'll take it from there. All right. Let me just hear. All right. So bye for now, and I'll see you soon.